What an incredible joy to be with you this morning. Friends, your world is wonderful. And we just saw that in the video, just a reminder from our own church congregation about the family that we have, about the giving that we take part in, and the incredible gift of Christ during this season, wonder. Today I'm looking at the noun wonder. The noun wonder means surprise and admiration when you see or experience something beautiful or unexpected. Something beautiful or unexpected. We're not looking at the verb of wonder. The verb is the kind of a doubt or question. You might say, I wonder where Alan is going with this today. That's not quite where we're headed today. Today, I want us to take this familiar, this routine, this story of the shepherds, and I want us to pick some pieces of it up, and I want us to put it into our basket of wonder, because these stories are full of wonder. For some, this story of the shepherds is so familiar. It's something we've heard our entire lives, and we've seen portrayed time and time again around Christmas time. And there is a phrase, familiarity breeds contempt. Maybe not contempt for us, but maybe it becomes just common. Here's that story once again. We're going through the motions of hearing the story, of going through this Christmas season. What of anything could we pick up from a familiar story and place it into a wonder basket? First, in Luke 2:2, I want us to look first at the angels, and then I want us to look at the shepherds. In Luke 2:2, it says, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. Friends, think with just a moment with me about an angel of the Lord appearing in this story. For Christmas Eve this year, I'm letting you in on a little sneak peek, friends. We're going to have an angel come down at the end of our Christmas Eve services and light the Christ candle. It's going to be new. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be different. Some of you are going to wonder why the Christ candle wasn't lit earlier in the service, because we're going to have a special angel come down. And of course, it's going to be a beautiful child dressed up as an angel. It's going to be meaningful, but I wonder if we could ever kind of have like a real nativity, a real setup of a story. Can you picture an angel of the Lord? We choose a young child, a precious, we think, oh, a beautiful angel. But friends, this is a warrior for God, an angel of the Lord. If we were to be true, if we were to try to be on target with what an angel of the Lord mean, we might pick the largest and the strongest and the most buff person we can find in Georgetown, Texas, to come down the aisle in a big giant suit. I wasn't sure, was Roger France, are you here today? Were you? For some reason I had like this Roger image of someone coming down. I'm the angel of the Lord to light the candle. I don't know if we could get away with that. Good luck, Tina, you can ask. An angel of the Lord, a warrior for God, stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, the light of the Lord. When was the last time you were in a place and you just said, oh, the glory of the Lord is shining around us? Not something you would see every day. And then all of this, the angel and the glory and all of this had the shepherds terrified. Friends, when was the last time you were terrified? When was the last time you, in the rain at dark, drove through that Williams Drive intersection they're still trying to figure out over I-35, and you just went right through? When was the last time you were terrified? I love the King James Version where it says they were sore afraid. They were sore afraid, sorely. I'd like to see our young people pick this language up for my boys to tell us that they're sore hungry in the afternoon. Very, very scared, terrified. Friends, in this image of an angel of the Lord and the glory shining around them, and these shepherds were terrified. There is nothing routine about this image as they stood there in awe, as they came to proclaim a certain message to a certain particular people, the shepherds. Friends, the shepherds in Bible days were not just some lovely people sitting out playing a flute in the field as they watched their sheep go through the field. Some of them at the time were thought of as thieves. They were taking their animals and they were grazing on other people's property. To be a shepherd was not the highest position. They were not able to testify in courts at that time because they were all thought to be liars, these shepherds, and they would normally be unclean. They would normally be unclean. Have you been around sheep much? They're not quite as white and perfect and clean as we like to make out. There's a lot going on when there's a whole herd of sheep and it's not all that clean. These shepherds would not be able to enter into the temple. They would not be able to enter into worship just because of their role in living out in the field. They would be disconnected from the community. They were filthy people. As a bonus, I was thinking this week about another shepherd that we know in the Bible. In 1 Samuel, King David, young David, I wonder if there's a connection that David was a shepherd and found out with his sheep. Listen to this description of young David as a shepherd and see if it matches our beautiful, perfect, serene image of a nativity shepherd. Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and I struck it down, and I rescued the lamb from its mouth. And if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw and I would strike it down and I would kill it. The shepherds, this particular shepherd, it's covered in the blood of a lion and a bear. And could you imagine a nativity scene, friends, with the shepherds and some carcasses of a bear or a lion just rotting beside it? That might be a more true nativity scene. Ann Castle's getting ready to set our nativity out for next week. I'll watch and see if it's a true nativity scene for us. Some animal or something lying there. The Jewish commentary would say there was no more disreputable occupation than to be a shepherd. And they were simply on the job that night. They were simply on the job there in the field that night. These shepherds hadn't done anything to make everything perfect. They hadn't just suddenly said they were going to make a change in their lives. We're going to be better shepherds from now on. We're going to do something. They hadn't changed their ways. They didn't make a pact that they would stop cussing less, these shepherds. Right in the middle of their work, right in the middle of being stinky, smelly, covered in blood and whatever shepherds, that was the moment and that was the place where God decided to show up and first tell the world of the birth of Christ. There was nothing routine about these messengers. There was nothing familiar about this story. It was incredibly filled with wonder. I wonder if we could take this story and set it into more of a modern context. Have you been to a hospital room lately after a young child has been born, as an infant has been born? There's a perfect scene where a young couple has prepared for this moment. They've been so excited. They've got the playlist of music that they're going to play during the day as the baby is getting ready to come forward. There's been suitcases that have been set aside and prepared so that the right things are in the right place. Their list of who they're going to contact when the baby comes here. First, we're going to call mom, and then we're going to call this mom, and then grandma, and then our closest of friends are all going to come. Everything's been set up and perfect for this couple in the hospital room. What if after visiting hours, what if in the middle of the night, that first night, before anybody had a chance to come and visit this young couple and this baby, what if the midnight shift at our local fast food restaurant, you know, the fast food restaurant where they come out with the health inspector's report and you're like, yeah, that figures. That's not a surprise. What if the 3 or 4 of them kind of smelling like vegetable oil, and they kind of made their way down the aisle and they came in the room and they said, we were working tonight at the fill in the blank of the name of the fast food place. I don't want to get myself in trouble. And all of a sudden, these angels showed up, and we can't explain it, but these angels said, it's you that we've decided to share this message with. You guys, in the middle of your midnight shift, now go just down the street, there's a hospital room, and tell this couple that their child is here to save the world. That story sounds a little ridiculous, but that's exactly what it means to say that the shepherds of all people were told to go and share this message with Mary and with Joseph. There's nothing unique, there's nothing normal about this story that we're hearing. It's a mixing of angels, and it's a mixing of God's glory, and it's a mixing of these unwanted shepherds to share the good news of the glory of God. And it didn't arrive the way we expected it. And it didn't arrive at the time that we expected it. It just showed up. Again, our definition of wonder today: surprise and admiration when you see or experience something beautiful or unexpected. Friends, this story that we've heard so many times is filled with so much grace. So much grace, and God showing up unexpectedly in their lives. And so now it's time for us to point to this story and to ask ourselves, where are we in this story? Maybe we're the ones that are blowing through another Advent and another Christmas season as it's just another routine year. We haven't taken any moments to just take a break and see the wonder around us. Maybe it's been happening, but we've just been doing so many things. Maybe we're the shepherds. Maybe we're the ones that feel a little disconnected from the community this year. Maybe we're the ones that don't have it all in order. Maybe you're the exact one that message is going to come to and come through this year to someone in your life. Maybe you're the one with the imperfect life. Maybe this Christmas is not quite set up as it's been in the past. Maybe your life isn't as perfect as the Christmas card picture you sent out. Maybe at the end of this sermon series, we realize there's no such thing as a simple Christmas. We are invited out of our routine to experience the wonder all around us, the wonder that shows unexpectedly, and when we don't realize it, it's the same wonder that showed up to the shepherds on that first Christmas. Friends, what does it mean to find ourselves out of the routine and instead experiencing the wonder? I want to close with a story this morning. It's a story that I've been holding on to for several years from a book from Mike Yaconelli, who was an amazing guru and mentor for youth ministry years ago. Take a breath, find a point of relaxation, listen to this story, and be invited again this Christmas season to step out of the routine and into the amazing wonder around you. A young father, a typical type A personality, he followed the same routine every day after work. He would arrive home around 5:30 and park his car in the garage. He'd walk out to the driveway with his briefcase in hand. He'd pick up the newspaper and proceed to the front door where he'd enter the house. He'd place his briefcase in the hallway. He'd put his newspaper on the couch in the living room and then walk down the long hallway to the kitchen. Once in the kitchen, he would open the cupboard and he'd take out a glass. He'd pour the glass full of milk, return the milk to the refrigerator. Without thinking, he would pick up the cold glass of milk. He'd grab a cookie from the cookie jar on the counter and walk to the living room where he would sit down. He'd power up the television with the remote and watch the news while drinking his milk and eating his cookie, and sometimes stopping during commercials to browse through the newspaper. His routine had been the same for many years, and unbeknownst to him, his 3-year-old son had noticed. So one night, the father came home from work and he began his usual routine. As he stepped into the hallway, setting his briefcase down and his newspaper on the couch, he looked up to see his son standing down the hall with a smile on his face, obviously anticipating the father's return. Dad knew something was up, and so he stopped and he watched his son turn around and head for the kitchen. Pleasantly surprised, the dad crept up to the kitchen, the edge of the kitchen, to see what his son was up to, and the little boy ran to the counter of the kitchen, and he pulled out the bottom drawer, which he was not supposed to do, and he stepped on the drawer, and he climbed up onto the counter, which he was not supposed to do. And he reached into the cupboard and he pulled on a glass and he knocked all the other glasses over, and thankfully none of them broke. With his glass in his hand, the little boy scooted back down onto the drawer and then onto the floor, and he ran over to the cookie jar and he reached up as high as he could, and he, barely grasping the jar, he knocked it over and he spilt cookies all over the floor. Oblivious to his father, he scooped up all the cookies and put them back on the counter, except for one. He picked up the remaining cookie and he ran over to the refrigerator and he placed the cookie and he placed the empty glass on the floor. And he opened the refrigerator door and reached inside and grabbed that heavy plastic half-gallon container of milk, and it promptly fell to the floor, which knocked the top off and spilled the milk just a little bit. And then he ran up to the container of milk, and the container, wobbling terribly, began to pour the milk into the glass, spilling milk all over the floor. Any other evening, the father would have probably yelled at his son at this point, pointing out the terrible mess he was making. But instead, he sensed something more important was happening here. He patiently waited as the little boy picked up the cookies and the glass of milk, and he came running to him with a huge smile on his face. The dad threw his arms around his son and said, "Thank you, son." Dad realized his son was giving him a wonderful gift. Friends, there is wonder all around you in this world. What do you love about Christmas? Is it the family? Is it the gift giving? Is it the birth of a gift of Christ? And as much as all of this may seem routine, I invite you to peek into the amazing wonder all around you. The amazing wonder that you and I get to share this season. You and I get to share through our imperfect ways. You and I get to share as we hold a glass of milk and a plate of cookies, and we run and we say, I love you. And the message that we get to share of a Messiah who has come into this world. A Messiah that has an amazing, wonderful story to tell. In Luke 4, this child, this Messiah, would rise and open the scrolls for his first message to finally tell the world what was going on. It's a message that you and I get to share this Christmas season. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Friends, may this season not be quite as routine. May you see the wonder around you. Thanks be to God. Amen.